What's up guys, welcome back. This is anime fiction. You'll be watching What If Naruto Was the Shadow Monarch Part 8. Now, let's begin. Naruto's perspective. Supplementary benefit. Safeguards the hands from harm should your strength fall below 80. Your movement will be impeded. Naruto acquired the gauntlets and equipped them with satisfaction. Similar to the other equipment, the gauntlets maintained their shape and allowed for full dexterity of my fingers. After adjusting my fingers, I lifted my head. Ahead of the tunnel, the torches that adorned the wall came to a conclusion. A massive door stood at their conclusion. I distinctly recalled this entrance. I reflected on the journey I have undertaken thus far. It has been 2 hours since my arrival here. I have achieved level 67 and acquired a significant amount of new equipment. I was ready. HP 10,794, 10,794. Recovery 19.3%, 1040.57 per minute MP 31,051, 31,107. Recovery 27.87%, 4887.93 per minute. Fatigue 01. Upon completing a final review of my status, I took hold of the door handles. The doors opened effortlessly, as if guided by an unseen force. The doors to the executive office opened. The room was shrouded in darkness. My view was limited to the front of my feet. The floor was meticulously arranged with stone slabs. The gray stones emitted a chill that contrasted sharply with the warmth of my body. The instant I set foot on those slabs, the array of torches that adorned the interior of the room ignited, casting light throughout the space. As I anticipated, nothing had altered even after I exerted excessive effort with my mana. Did the architect not make any modifications, or is he unable to make any modifications? Does he maintain authority over the system? Particularly when the system extended beyond its programming, I was unable to relax my vigilance. I proceeded with care, attentively assessing my environment. The room featured imposing pillars along its sides, with a grand throne positioned at the far end. This brings to mind, it evoked the grandeur of a king's throne room often depicted in various anime and films. The scale varied significantly. As I took a few steps into the room, the door behind me closed with a resounding sound. I did not examine it and proceeded onward. As I approached the throne, a figure clad in armor emerged from behind a pillar and deliberately stepped in front of me, obstructing my way. The entity ceased its movement and oriented itself towards me. I recognized this individual as the leader and my prospective partner. The name displayed in red letters, hovering above its head, conveyed the information clearly. Commander Igras in blood red, a knight clad in red armor, was present. The armor component resembled that of the knights I had encountered previously. However, in contrast to those cumbersome adversaries, this one appeared significantly more nimble. The helmet was particularly noteworthy to me. The helmet featured an elegant display of plumage at its apex. A streak of red hair extended from the top of the helmet and cascaded backward, resembling a horse's tail. Upon examining the helmet, I observed an additional detail. Does he possess eyes? In the location where a person's eyes would typically be, the helmet's opening emitted 2 glowing silver lights. Its eyes resembled the illumination emitted by a machine, conveying an impression of coldness. Those eyes were directed towards me. It caused a tingling sensation at the nape of his neck. Thus, this individual possessed a commanding presence. I monitored Igras's movements closely and positioned my fists accordingly. The dagger will not be effective in this situation. To overcome a knight, one required significant destructive force. I require my strength. Igras observed me intently before abruptly discarding its red cape. The cape dropped to the ground. The unusual behavior continued beyond that point. The knight unsheathed the longsword and the 2 daggers from its sides, discarding them onto the floor, one after the other. The action was executed with careful intention, conveying a clear message to me. The quiet of the executive office was interrupted by the resounding clatter of metal striking the stone floor. Igras, having set aside his weapons, raised his fists and assumed a fighting stance, attempting to emulate my technique. He is going to engage him in hand-to-hand combat because I did not draw a weapon. Allow me to demonstrate the distinction. Igras, seemingly comprehending my words, advanced towards me in a direct manner. The speed exhibited was remarkable for an armored entity. My armor indicated that a strength level below 80 would incur a movement penalty. The opponent's strength was determined to be a minimum of 80. Furthermore, the knight's movements demonstrated that his agility was certainly on par with that of a high-ranking hunter. Igris approached and made a leap. The knight directed a knee towards me. He demonstrates remarkable speed. However, it is not sufficiently rapid. However, I was determined not to accept defeat in any circumstance. I executed a precise backward bend at almost a 90-degree angle, successfully evading Igris's strike. I promptly elevated my posture and oriented myself towards the supervisor. In contrast to the knights who faltered and pressed on after failing their charge, Igris promptly reversed direction upon landing. I will acknowledge that point, however. Do you realize? I stated as I swiftly approached Igris before he completely turned around and directed a fist toward his chest. Before Igris could react, I had already moved with increased speed, leaving him unable to mount any counteraction. He braced himself for the impact, bang, boom bang, and as my punches landed, he was propelled backward, crashing into the wall behind him, leaving a significant dent in his chest. I regret to inform you, but I am significantly over-leveled for this situation. I informed him as the dust settled. Igris extricated himself from the wall and observed a significant impact on his chest, which had resulted in a noticeable mark. He gazed at it in disbelief, as if to convey that it was impossible. Igris swiftly approached and directed a kick towards my face. Nevertheless, he appeared considerably slower from my viewpoint, prompting me to precisely adjust my arm. I was able to effortlessly halt Igris's right leg with my left hand. He expressed surprise. As Igris's leg remained elevated, my fist propelled directly toward him. Igris instinctively raised both arms to shield himself but was unable to fully mitigate the impact. The strike penetrated his defense, propelling his body into the air, with an impression of a fist on his hands. I was positioned directly in front of Igris. Before he had the opportunity to respond, Igris's face encountered my left leg. The knight landed on the ground and maneuvered across the room. Upon finally ceasing his activity and rising, he noticed a ringing in his ears. He shook his head several times, and the ringing subsided slightly. Nonetheless, a more significant issue was on the horizon. Through his impaired vision, he observed me approaching him. Upon reviewing the system window, I noted that I have 3 minutes remaining before I am compelled to enter the penalty zone. Let us engage in some entertainment. I have already experienced my share of life and death challenges, so this should be enjoyable. Igris widened his eyes upon hearing me and concentrated his strength in his legs. I halted at a distance of an arm's length from Igris. Standing before him, despite his larger size, the dents and imprints on his body conveyed the narrative of who held authority in this situation. He maintained his elevated position, stating, "I will ensure you become my servant on my first attempt, and to achieve that, I must break you and compel you to submit to me." I informed him, and once more, he displayed a look of wide-eyed surprise, and a confrontation commenced between us. In a swift motion, I positioned myself behind the knight, recognizing the necessity to gain the upper hand. I commenced delivering a series of punches, targeting him from head to toe. In just over 10 seconds, I delivered numerous strikes on the opponent. As Igris became aware of his injuries, I had already targeted all the critical areas and removed significant portions of his armor. The kite health points were declining swiftly as I came to a halt. Igris collapsed, experiencing pain throughout his body. He surveyed his surroundings and noticed fragments of his armor strewn about. A piercing scream emanated from the helmet. Simultaneously, I felt the gaze upon me. Subsequently, I selected Igris by firmly grasping its neck. I gazed into its eyes. In a state of distress, Igris attempted to strike me multiple times, yet his efforts resembled those of a child in turmoil. Before he realized, I had thrown it with all my strength. In the next moment, I executed a modified earth lance, and shortly thereafter, it erupted from the ground with a resounding bang boom, propelling him into the high ceiling. Igris was forcefully propelled into the ceiling with a loud cry. He made contact with the shelter, yet he remained suspended as he was caught on the ceiling. In the following moment, I invoked stone bullets, and immediately thereafter, numerous stone bullets appeared around me. They were spinning, though not at the same speed as before, as I did not alter the spell. "I will see you in a few days," I informed him, and all the stone projectiles were fired at him. Stone projectiles began to strike him, with the majority making contact and resulting in numerous punctures across his body. The remaining ones collided with the ceiling, resulting in significant openings, which led to the knight descending to the ground. The impact of the attack was significant enough to reverberate throughout the entire room. I reassessed the situation. Despite being grounded, Igres remained alive. I sensed the powerful vitality radiating from the knight. You simply do not perish. I must conclude this matter. I removed the Night Killer, and Igres's body reacted as he caught sight of the dagger. I seized the ice pick and directed it towards the knight's neck with precision. The assault caused more than just a puncture to his neck. Once again, sparks emanated from the tip of the dagger, emerged from the opposite side of the neck. The Night Killer penetrated deeply into the knight's neck and emerged from the opposite side. You have successfully defeated the Knight Captain, Blood Red Igres. You have advanced to a new level. I elevated my arms high into the air. While walking backward, this may seem trivial, but I hold the belief that every positive achievement deserves recognition. Multiple streaks of light emanated from Igres's body. It served as the distinguishing feature of the items. Let's prioritize those first. I extended my hand toward the light. You have successfully located the Red Knight's helmet. Are you interested in acquiring it? You have discovered a runestone. Ruler's hands. Are you interested in acquiring it? You have discovered a leather pouch. Are you interested in acquiring it? An instant return stone has been located. Are you interested in acquiring it? I was unable to conceal my joy. Obtain everything. The leather pouch was the initial item acquired. The leather pouch has been opened. There was 1,500,000 gold present. You have successfully acquired 1,500,000 gold. I was somewhat taken aback. The reward is exceptional. Just like I thought, beating the boss was tough, but it came with an awesome reward. Surprisingly, even the leather pouch, which I didn't expect much from, ended up giving me a crazy amount of gold. This could really come in handy for the shop. But I found myself more drawn to the other items. If the leather pouch gave me this much, I can only imagine what the helmet and the runestone will bring. I was super excited, even though it could be a bit overwhelming. I opened the information screen on the helmet with a racing heart. Ding! Red Knight's helmet rarity. S category. Armor physical damage reduction increased by 15%, strength increased by 20, constitution increased by 20, S rank. I couldn't help but let out a joyful scream. I got my hands on this S rank equipment for the first time. Yeah, I did get some higher rank equipment like the Book of Totality and one of the 6 pieces of the Rubik's Cube Totality, but I can't use them. It really doesn't change anything. Not only does it reduce physical damage by 15%, but it also gives a nice 20-point boost to strength and constitution. Pretty awesome, right? I could feel my heart racing with excitement over the item. It's just not on the same level as the A-rank equipment. I picked up quite a few A-rank items along the way. I got the first one from taking down Kasaka, and it was the Venom Gland. The second one was the Gatekeeper's Necklace from Cerberus. So, I ended up getting Ardwolf's Golden Claw after taking down the Golden Werewolf Ardwolf. So, reaming came from the Treasure of the Labyrinth and taking down the Minotaur. Those were definitely strong enough. Even though the Venom Gland had a bit of a drawback on strength, it was still a pretty strong item, offering a solid 20% reduction in physical damage permanently. And the Minotaur had a big heart too. What about the Gatekeeper's Necklace? That item was really awesome. It boosted both agility and sense by 20 points. As time went on, the advantages of those two stats really started to stand out. I got my hands on the Red Knight's helmet, and let me tell you, its effects were almost a perfect mix of those two A-rank items. No penalties involved. It's honestly the best. Even with the intense fight, I couldn't help but smile. I have to say, I actually liked the design of the helmet. Just a little thing, but still worth mentioning. It's a bummer that I can't show it off. The helmet gleamed in a deep red hue. With that long plumage, it really felt like a piece of art. For a quick second, I thought it would be cool to get my hands on and wear the whole set of crimson armor. Honestly, it looked really cool. I'm sorry to say, that's unfortunate. It looks like the other pieces of Igres's armor didn't show up as drops. They only managed to get the helmet. I pushed the little regret to the back of my mind and gently slipped on the helmet. Just like always, the item vanished as soon as I put it on. Even though I couldn't really flaunt its design without taking it off, the helmet definitely boosted my stats a lot. Here are the stats. HP, 10,884, 10,884. Recovery, 19.3%, 1040.57 per minute. MP, 32,031, 32,188 R, 27.87%, 4,887.93 per minute. Feeling tired. Strength, 125, with a boost of 20, Constitution, 113, which is an increase of 20 Agility, 135 Intelligence, 202 Sense, 132. You've got 3 stat points available. Physical damage reduction, 50%, plus 15%. The boost of the helmet was briefly displayed in parentheses. They really boosted strength, constitution, and even physical damage reduction a lot. I was really happy with it. Seeing the effects for myself made his heart race. He had one more thing to check off the list. Feeling excited, I glanced at the last 2 items. Runestone. Ruler's Hand's Instant Return Stone, just 2 stones. I took a look at the Instant Return Stone. First, it was a rock that was just a bit bigger than a walnut. This is the runestone that grants a special kind of telekinesis. Ruler's Authority is a special kind of telekinesis that's unique to the rulers and the humans they decide to share their powers with. Considering how powerful the rulers are, when this skill is at full strength, it's almost like a black hole in terms of its effectiveness. This skill was really great, especially when you pair it with gravity spells. Then, I checked out the other stone. I saw the information about the stone pop up in front of me. Ding! Instant Return Stone Rarity. Type: consumable item for class advancement quest. Take a break to head back outside the dungeon right away. This item will be gone once you finish the quest. This item can't be kept in your inventory. Using it was just like using a runestone. Rather than relying on skill, breaking it would lead me outside. Ding! The player just got their hands on the instant return stone. Alright, it's time to kick off the class advancement quest. Stat HP: 12,484, 12,484. Recovery: 19.3%, 1040.57 per minute. MP: 32,031, 32,188. Recovery: 27.87%, 4,887.93 per minute. Fatigue was at 0, and my mana was fully restored. With the boost in constitution from the helmet, my maximum health has gone up accordingly. The quick comeback: the stone I was holding in my hand. The stone symbolized throwing in the towel on the journey. If that weren't the case, he wouldn't have received it as the starting signal. I put the instant return stone that I couldn't store in my back pocket. The next message from the system popped up. Ding! Just a heads up, in 10 seconds, those dimensional gates are going to start popping open randomly. Dimensional gates. What's the story behind the name Dimensional Gates? You can actually travel to other worlds with it? Not just one in this universe, but beyond it. I was just thinking about that. A big screen popped up, displaying numbers way up in the air. 10 seconds in, that was pretty straightforward. It was likely the countdown it mentioned before. The messages just kept coming. The player gets to decide. Just grab the instant return stone to make your way out of the dungeon. 8, 7, 6. The countdown kept going. I noticed the other screen was displaying a countdown too. 1:30, 29, 28. Or hang in there for as long as you can and gather the advancement points you need for leveling up your class. Hang in there? What do you mean by endure? I'm just here to relax. The runestone has been added to the inventory. Just a heads up, the class advancement quest is kicking off soon. 4, 3, 2. I looked at both numbers ticking down and took a moment to check out my surroundings. I glanced around quickly. The air in the room began to swirl and take on a strange shape. 0 hours 0 minutes and 1 second. Good luck to you. Nah, you should just wish me a good sleep instead. It was the first time the system showed any hint of emotion, but there wasn't really time to be surprised. As soon as the timer hit 0, gates began to pop up in different spots around the room. It wasn't just a couple. There were 6 right by me, and behind them, I could see a whole bunch more showing up. Meanwhile, the timer began counting up. 0 hours 0 minutes and 2 seconds. It was that time again. The countdown had begun once more. This time, it's my turn to give it a shot here. The advancement points will be based on my record. I didn't have the whole picture, but I was confident I knew it all. The more I go through, the stronger I'll get. Actually, I'd be getting a stronger class. 0 hours 0 minutes and 3 seconds. As soon as the timer hit 3 seconds, the closest gates began to spawn a bunch of knights, but they were all unarmed. The ground trembled as the armored knights lined up in formation. They seemed like a silver tidal wave just hanging there, ready to come crashing down on me at any moment. Even when things got tough, I couldn't help but smile. I used up the mana I had along with my mana regen speed. I could keep going for ages, even while I'm casting a bunch of spells at the same time. That could definitely get a nice boost if I switch my 2 passive skills to active. My form just vanished out of nowhere. Just like I thought, the knights charging at me all slowed down and came to a halt. A mage just activated the Eye of Detection. The system let out a warning beep. I glanced over at the noise. A mage had just come through one of the gates and was busy casting a spell. Naruto noticed a mark shaped like an eye above its head. The mark shimmered, and my stealth was set free. The knights who had been standing still after he vanished all turned their heads to look at me at the same time. It felt like something right out of a horror movie. A silver tidal wave crashed down on the man, while I shoot off a bunch of elemental arrows. The arrows zipped by the shimmering tide and struck anyone who even remotely looked like a mage. Then, a bunch of elemental arrows struck all the crucial spots on their bodies, heart, head, and throat, taking them out in a flash. You've taken down 10 mages. Just as the silver tide was about to hit me, I slipped back into stealth mode. I watched the countdown that was still ticking away. 28, 27, 26, 25, 24, 23, 22. I hung around for a bit because I figured that unless I took out all the knights or at least cut their numbers down, I wouldn't see any more enemies showing up. It's like a little rule I'm making the most of. As I waited, the knights paused and scanned the area, searching for me. 1, 0. Looks like you didn't finish the daily quest. Alright, you're about to head over to the penalty zone now. The ground began to shake pretty intensely. So, my stealth got cancelled when all the knights suddenly turned and stared at me. See you later. Catch you in 4 hours. Oh, wait, my bad. You can't actually see me. They came running towards me. Everything around him shifted. Haha, being op is a blast. I chuckled to myself. The words from the system before the quest kicked off just kept popping into my mind. Good luck to you. The shakes got more intense. I decided to stop struggling to stay balanced like I used to and just let go during the earthquake, closing my eyes instead. I ended up getting wrapped up in something. He could feel the soft sand beneath his fingertips. The shaking had finally come to an end. I ended up in the middle of a huge desert. I brushed the sand off my body, stood up, and took a look around. All around me, there was this vast expanse of sand, just going on until it met the horizon. The desert. I scooped up some sand and watched it slip through my fingers. The sand dropped straight down to the ground. Just take a deep breath and relax, and just like that, he felt this incredible lightness, and suddenly, all the sounds just faded away. When he opened his eyes, he found himself in a desert that felt both familiar and strange. It's completely still out here. It wasn't just the wind. When I looked up, I noticed there was no sun, no moon, and not even a single star in sight. A sky that's completely empty, like black ink poured out on a canvas. It was even weirder that, even though there wasn't any light source in sight, I could see everything around me just fine. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's time. And certainly it was. I sensed a life form rising beneath the sand. I raised my legs and shot up from the ground. My body felt lighter than a feather. I landed just a few steps away and turned around. As expected, the location where I was lying began sinking into the ground. Now I could look at the sinkhole with a relaxed expression. The bottom of the depression boiled, like it had before, and a pillar of sand emerged from the hole. Sand dropped all around him, making a waterfall-like sound and showing what had emerged from the hole. A column of sand rose from the ground, exposing the shape of the huge centipede. A gigantic centipede had emerged from the sand. The monster's completely unveiled shape was taller than a 5-story building. It was the largest beast I had seen with my own eyes. The minotaur I fought was not like as big as this creature. Of course, larger does not imply more power. However, these were individuals that should undoubtedly be part of my shadow army. They appeared to be moving slowly in my eyes. I lifted my attention to confirm the red lettering over the centipede's head. Poison-fanged giant sand centipede. A red name. Exactly like the Cerberus from the Demon Castle. But, still far from the Minotaur, the quest message appeared. Ding, penalty quest. Survive goal. Survive for the specified time. Required time, 4 hours. The remaining time, 4 hours 0 minutes, 0 seconds. The 4 hours I spent here were added to my endurance timer. Still, while I'm at it, why not try to develop some spells? Yes, let's do this. But first, I need to get rid of these nasty pests. Remaining time, 3 hours 59 minutes 59 seconds. Call lighting. I cast the magic, and in the next second, 5 thunderbolts appeared from the sky, striking the bug, who shrieked in pain, while the centipede thrashed in pain. However, following the 6th lightning bolt, it died. The centipede sprayed liquid all over the place before ultimately falling. Boom! Its body sent up a cloud of sand. Ding! You fought the poison-fanged giant sand centipede. All of this causes a large outburst, sending sand flying everywhere, which resulted in airflow, while melting all the sand where lightning strikes. Just what I was looking for. When the airflow instantly heated, I seized control of it through wind manipulation. And as sand began to fly around it, I gradually increased the pace, becoming a cyclone. And I began to employ my creativity through fire manipulation. I began to move up the ground, causing more wind to replace the air rising above. I increased the wind speed, and soon a massive sandstorm erupted, drawing giant sand centipede. While wind speed combined with sand that was hot enough to convert into sharp shards of little glass. It became a lethal storm, and simply getting close to it may result in death. Even breathing could allow shards of glass to enter the body. Ha 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 ha. I laughed as I began to grow my latest invention while counting on my mana as fuel. Several sand columns appeared around me. The centipedes arrived after smelling their kin's blood. My expression brightened. Exactly how many are there? I couldn't help but smile as I saw the heads of centipedes emerge from the ground. As I increased the size of the cyclone of glass, I trapped every centipede in sight. Centipedes yelled out in agony as their skin began to peel away from their eyes, ears, nose, neck, and lungs, and every part of their bodies was now covered in glass shards, while the racing winds transformed into sharp blades that inflicted massive wounds on their bodies. This resulted in considerably more injury because the wounds were now filled with shards of glass, and every vein of their bodies was loaded with sharpened glass. The screams lasted for a few more seconds as centipede thrashed their bodies in an attempt to escape the death storm. However, because to the severity of the storm, there was no way out. The cyclone was 2 kilometers wide. They soon began to die out. You fought the poison-fanged giant sand centipede. 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 You've reached a higher level, as with a strong breeze, the odor of tinier blood spread over the area, and more centipede approached after smelling their kin's blood. You fought the poison-fanged giant sand centipede. 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 You've reached a higher level. Time skip. After nearly an hour of defeating over 100 centipedes, I had advanced 3 levels. I've reached level 72. I gazed about at the centipede carcasses that littered the still-spinning whirlwind of glass, which was now more than 5 kilometers wide. The entire place was covered with blood. It's been an hour, and I'm exhausted since the hurricane of glass was eating more than I could replenish, so I had to get rid of the problem, which was a lack of mana. I put both Mana Skin and Mana Recovery Field into active mode, which required me to completely resolve the issue. As I continue to sustain and power up the spell, it generates mana, causing it to grow more bigger. I became bored while waiting for the system to record the spell just after the second hour, and the spell still had a range of 8 kilometers. On my third hour, I felt like it was going nowhere, but I kept casting the spell because I was afraid I'd run out of mana quicker than I could recover. Which was a lot given that my neutral speed is 27.87%, 4,887.93 per minute. Now it will add 17% additional, and it will be from my current stat rather than the old one, so 5,471.96. So now both add up to 10,359.92 every minute, and I'll soon be losing more than 10,000 mana each minute, so anyone would believe it's too much, but the system still counts this as a spell. At the 4th hour, I was losing hope because I was only able to sustain myself on the highest grade mana positions for 2 minutes with my mana regen speed, and without it, I would run out of mana in 90 seconds. The typhoon is now broader than 15 kilometers, and the wind inside it is quicker than the speed of sound, so even being close to it can rip you apart and transform you into tiny chunks of meat. And this was just from wind speed, but when mixed with glass shards, it was so deadly that it could convert the minotaur I was fighting into meat paste. As a result, I had to keep all of the centipede in inventory, and some of them looked rather horrible because their bodies were covered with glass while inside the storm. And given how horribly their bodies had been injured, I'm sure some of them couldn't even be converted into shadow warriors. Penalty quest. Survive goal. Survive for the specified time. Required time, 4 hours. Remaining time, 0 hours 37 minutes and 07 seconds. It was taking so much time and mana that it reminded me of my early days, when it took almost 8 hours to generate a simple measly fireball. Now I was becoming frustrated. This was the sound of mana position moving into my throat. As I drank another mana position, I realized I was about to run out of mana and flung the bottle, which was grabbed by a cyclone before it even hit the ground. Even if it was too expensive, I wasn't going to give up because I knew I'd soon have an incredible skill. Ding! A specific action initiates the development of new skills. By constantly focusing on the wind, a few new skills have been developed. What? More than one skill? Ding! The player has achieved the skill, Tornado, as a result of their ongoing wind control and formation. Ding! Due to the continuing wind control and creation, the player gained the skill, Sandstorm. Ding! The player has gained the skill, Butchering Winds, as a result of their ongoing wind management and formation. Ding! The player has achieved the skill, Glass Storm, as a result of their ongoing wind control and formation. Ding! The player now has the talent, Shredding Cyclone, as a result of his continuing wind control and formation. Ding! Due to the continuing wind control skill, Wind Manipulation has leveled up. Holy fuck! Reading all of this was quite shocking. I got 5 skills when I was just trying to get a single skill. This was an unexpected development, but one that I really loved. So, how did this happen? Did the system treat each phase of the spell as a separate spell? This is the most logical option given my 40s. Like, it all started with me manufacturing a storm. This resulted in the Tornado skill. Next, all the sand pulled into it, resulting in the skill, Sandstorm. The subsequent phenomenon was the escalating speed of the wind, which intensified to the point of transforming into what were termed Butchering Winds. As the name implies, anything or anyone caught within its vicinity would face severe consequences. The subsequent step involved heating sand through the application of friction speed and fire manipulation, resulting in the sand reaching such high temperatures that it transformed into shards of glass. The process necessitates significant heat owing to the interplay of friction, speed, and fire manipulation, which facilitated its feasibility. This resulted in shards of glass of varying sizes, some so diminutive that they could penetrate human arteries, while others were so large that even human hands seemed small in comparison, all spinning at an extraordinary velocity. The appropriate method for creating the glass storm skill is outlined as follows. The culmination of all four elements results in shredding cyclone, the skill I originally aimed to develop. Winds exceeding the speed of sound that draw entire structures inward, filled with shards of glass capable of causing significant harm, aptly named the shredding cyclone. The culmination of my efforts is that I achieved all of this through wind manipulation, which elevated my skill to a higher level. Now I comprehend why it took an extended period to register the spell, as the system was categorizing each step as an individual skill. I am grateful that it occurred, despite the fact that I invested over 80,000 in the mana positions. Due to their exceptional sacrifice, I was able to acquire 5 skills at. Let us examine the effects. Ding. Tornado level. 1 rank. A+ skill classification. Active cost of mana. 150 effective range. 50 to 70 meters cooling period. None damage. 200. Plus 100. S. The effect pulls the enemy to its center, inflicting an immediate 200 damage, followed by 100 damage per second over time at the center. It is quite acceptable given its area of effect. Ding. Sandstorm level. 1 rank. A++. Skill category. Active cost of mana. 350 effective range. 200 to 300 meters cooling period. None damage. 100. Plus 40. S. The skill generates a vortex of sand. All entities within a range of 200 to 300 meters experienced blindness and sustained damage. While implementing a significant debuff that reduces accuracy by 40%, any opponent within its vicinity would be immobilized for 3 seconds, in addition to being blinded, silenced, and dazed for the subsequent 10 seconds. Note: the skill does not affect its user or anyone they consider an ally. Impressive, particularly with its debuff that not only reduces long-range attack accuracy but also blinds, silences, and dazes for 10 seconds, an essential advantage in a fight where every second counts. Additionally, it immobilizes the opponent for the next 3 seconds. Excellent. Ding. Butchering Winds level. 1 rank. A+++. Skill category. Active resource expenditure. 400 effective range. 300 to 400 meters cooling period. None damage. 1000. Plus 600. S. The phenomenon is characterized by a mobile, destructive vortex of violently rotating winds, resembling a funnel-shaped cloud as it progresses. That presents a greater challenge for escape. Note: the skill does not affect its user or anyone they consider an ally. Impressive. The output is 1000 instantly, along with a sustained damage rate of 600 per second. The name accurately reflects its function, as it effectively butchers targets. With a substantial area of effect, it demonstrates considerable versatility, particularly given that it is only at level 1, with damage that will continue to accumulate. This represents a highly destructive skill with significant power, capable of causing internal bleeding and organ failure. Additionally, there is an immediate damage of 1500, followed by 900 damage per second. Ding. Glass Storm level. 1 rank. S skill category. Active cost of mana. 500 area of effect. 200 to 300 meters. Cooling period. None damage. 1500. Plus 900. S. The effect generates a dynamic and destructive vortex composed of violently rotating shards of glass in various sizes. Inflicts significant damage while delivering 900 damage per second. Additionally, if the enemy inhales air contaminated with glass particles, it can lead to substantial damage over time, resulting in internal bleeding and organ failure. Ding. Shredding Cyclone level. 1 rank. SSS type of skill. Active cost of mana. 4000 area of effect. 500 to 700 meters cooling period. None damage. 3000. Plus 200. S. Plus bleeding plus rip effect. A cyclone that disintegrates anything it encounters, delivering 3000 damage with a continuous 2000 damage per second. The Bleeding status effect is applied, resulting in a target losing 1% of their health for each second the effect remains in effect. If the enemy stays within the shredding cyclone for over 100 seconds, they will receive the RIP status effect, resulting in a 1% health loss for the next 12 seconds. The effect is irreversible and cannot be evaded unless the enemy possesses double the strength of the player. If the opponent is more powerful, the RIP effect will require additional mana from the player. There is a 0.5% probability that it may result in fatalities and significant damage. This also requires additional mana consumption. It is important to note that the skill does not impact the user or any individuals they regard as allies. I was astonished while reading the description, rendered speechless by the sight of a weapon capable of mass destruction that could obliterate entire regions. That is a significant amount of damage accompanied by numerous additional perks. Now I comprehend why my mana was depleted so rapidly. The spell is exceptionally powerful. The rank alone indicated that once it reached its maximum, it could indeed defeat dragons. Additionally, it features not only bleeding but also an effect termed RIP, which is unprecedented and cannot be cancelled unless the opponent possesses double my strength. Additionally, I am confident that with an increase in level, the percentage will also rise. This means that even a 0.5% increase could result in an enemy losing 5.5% of their health, which is significant, as this effect will persist for the next 12 seconds. Consequently, the event could lead to a loss of 66% of their health in just 12 seconds. Additionally, it explicitly states that there is a possibility of causing instant death. Once again, the accumulation of damage over time can be significant. I recognize the skill I wish to celebrate, yet I exercise restraint as there remains much to accomplish. Once I have completed everything and moved on from this location, I plan to celebrate with a rewarding experience and some enjoyable expenditures. Upon reviewing the skill, I felt quite pleased. However, I was unable to overlook the previous skill that required enhancement, so I proceeded to click on it. Ding! Wind control level. 2 rank. SS. Plus. Skill type. Passive, active mana cost. Variable area of effect. None cooling period. None no damage reported. The player possesses the ability to create, shape, and manipulate wind. With it, players can develop wind-type skills more efficiently and with reduced mana consumption. Accelerate the development of wind-type skills by 10%. Develop wind-type skills while minimizing consultation time. Any skill or attack related to wind will result in a 2% reduction in damage. Any wind-type skill or attack will consume 2% less mana, health, and stamina. Any skill or attack related to wind will experience a 2% increase in power. It has an additional 1%, and if this trend persists, it will culminate in a 10% increase in power, extra damage, a 10% reduction in mana consumption, and a 50% acceleration in the creation of wind spells. This is significant, especially given that spells of this nature can consume tens of thousands of mana per minute. Impressive. These are some impressive skills. It enhances my ability to adapt. This spell has a broad area of effect and is classified as Legendary ++ rank, SS triple+. It represents my initial creation. I took great pride in my accomplishments. There is no reason not to. This is a spell that has the potential to create unprecedented chaos beyond human comprehension. I did not anticipate that this process would be so lengthy, particularly given that I was in the desert, where all necessary resources were readily available. As mana does not require materialization from the air and sand, I am not expressing dissatisfaction. Rather, it presents an inconvenience as I intend to develop one more spell here. One of the most impressive spells that Anna's had at his disposal, in my opinion, is quite remarkable. It is referred to as Shark Cyclone. It stands out as one of my personal favorite Shark Cyclones, not solely for its impact, but also for its unique characteristics. A spell that creates a 100-meter-tall tornado, serving as a habitat for several sharks measuring 8 to 10 meters in length, which will consume anyone caught within its grasp. Can you envision engaging in a game like World of Warcraft, only to meet your demise because a magic caster chose to unleash a Sharknado on the battlefield? I would not be upset at all. I am aware of how to generate cyclones with mere thought, yet I find myself entirely uninformed when it comes to the creation of sharks. Even science is unable to assist me in this instance, contrary to its consistent support in the past. Magic is a concept rooted in the mind. It requires belief in your actions. With sufficient mana, one can manifest extraordinary outcomes, molding reality and its principles according to one's intentions. I once more reviewed the quest screen. The penalty quest was nearing its conclusion. Penalty quest. Endure objective. Endure for the specified duration. Estimated duration. 4 hours. Time left. 0 hours, 33 minutes, and 12 seconds. Regarding the creation of the spell, I believe I did not have sufficient time to complete it. Let's focus on developing some foundational skills. As I settled onto the glass that was formerly sand, I was considering ways to enhance my sense stat without allocating additional stat points to achieve a superhuman level. I have developed several ideas on how to approach this and establish specialized skills associated with it. I propose that the essential factor in revealing all of them resides in their names. Currently, my attention is directed towards the sense statistic, understanding, a capability through which the body detects an external stimulus. The 5 primary faculties of a living body are sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. There are many more, but they were located inside. This would apply in a typical scenario. However, I must consider the influence of mana. I removed a diverse selection of food items from my inventory. I overlooked the reality that I am transporting the remains of numerous creatures alongside my food and water. I consumed the meal thoughtfully, reflecting on this matter. A thought suddenly occurred to me. I paused my meal and observed my food. Taste perception. I took a brief pause from my meal. I reflected on the information I reviewed in the human anatomy books a few days prior. The tongue is a muscular organ in the mouth, with thousands of taste buds on the surface. Taste buds contain taste receptor cells. Let's see if I can excite these cells and increase their efficiency. I put my metal chopsticks down and concentrated. I concentrated and transferred a small amount of mana to my mouth. Contrary to popular perception, individual sections of the tongue are not assigned distinct tastes. Taste receptors are located on the tongue, upper esophagus, and cheeks. I pushed a small amount of my mana to cover the entire interior of his mouth. They are slowly infused into the tissues, followed by the cells. Now I could do this even if my tongue blew up and regenerated quicker than my eyes could. That is the only reason I didn't do this before. I didn't want to die from internal bleeding. Even so, I was cautious and completed the process gradually. I did not want to make any mistakes. After a few minutes, with mana still in my lips, I took a bite of the dish. Then, I gradually raised the mana and tried again. This time, when I took the dish, I felt an explosion of flavor. I felt my eyes widen. I'd never tasted anything like it. It felt like a whole new universe had opened up to me. It felt like the food I'd eaten earlier was concealing its genuine flavors. I could feel each component within a single bite. It was made with a variety of flavors. All of it. I took a few more bites. A new message arrived, informing me of the new talent I had acquired. A new skill is produced by doing a certain activity. The talent, superior tasting, was created after successfully controlling and concentrating mana to coat the inside of your tongue and improve your sense of taste. Superior tasting, passive, active, LV. 1. A skill earned by concentrating mana through your mouth's taste sensor cells. At higher levels, this skill can detect both hidden, tasteless, toxins and uncommon delicate flavors. Effects. Increased taste, mana cost. 1 second in the active state. Yes, just what I wanted. I was a bit of a gourmand in my prior life. After all, who isn't? With this expertise, I'll be able to taste the wonderful flavors of worlds on a much larger scale than I imagined. Improving the senses necessitates a delicate use of mana and a fair deal of control. So I should move cautiously. A ruptured eardrum is not a pleasant sensation, nor are your eyes going to pop. Second reason I didn't do it sooner. I nodded with a serious expression. Then I took a breath. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes, concentrating. Hearing is the ability to perceive sounds through the ear by detecting vibrations in the air or another medium. The vibrations detected by the ear are subsequently converted to nerve impulses, which are experienced by the brain. The human ear has 3 major parts: the outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear. I remembered all I'd learned from the books. Because the ear is a more fragile organ than the tongue, I used even less mana to begin. My goal was to gradually increase and reduce the frequency of noises that I could sense. So I could use one of the standard sonic scream powers without causing my eardrums to bleed. I can also hear movements between fights. I concentrated and delicately moved my mana around the ear, stimulating his auditory canals and receptors. I increased the mana quantity gradually. Of course, this was something no one could do. People are stuck with the powers they have. On the other hand, I am always improving and adjusting without constraints. At the very least, I do not know them. I started to notice the noises of my clothes blowing in the breeze. Even though I was motionless, the wind moved tiny bits of my clothing, causing subtle sounds that would usually go unnoticed. I concentrated and slightly enhanced my mana output. This time, I discovered new sounds as the ones I could hear increased louder. I was stilled and somewhat reduced my mana level, which I stayed at for a while to adjust to. I then began increasing the output and eventually succeeded. I heard sand dropping several meters distant. The sound of water I spilled traveling with the wind. The loudest sounds were sandstorms. It was tough to control and obtain the optimal amount of mana required to hear beyond normal while not becoming excessively loud. But after numerous tries and a dozen minutes, I did it. And when it happened, I received the normal blue box informing me of another successful new talent. A new skill is produced by doing a certain activity. The skill, Enhanced Hearing, was produced by successfully controlling and concentrating mana to the inside of your ear, hence enhancing your hearing ability. Enhanced Hearing. Passive, Active, LV. 1. A skill earned by concentrating mana through your ear's oral receptors. At a much higher level, this skill may detect heartbeats, muscular contractions, and even the sound of blood flowing through the body, allowing players to identify layers of overlapping noises and even hear a person's thoughts, as well as instinctively and instantly understand their personality based on the small sounds they make. While also making the player's hearing stronger owing to frequent exposure to mana, producing even the loudest sounds won't injure the player's ears. So, I need a few names that are easy to pronounce, such as Dusk, Tank, or Greed. So, I need a name for the Golden Werewolf. I was thinking about gold, certainly. But if you could give something better and simpler, welcome. So I need a name for a gold werewolf and 2 silver werewolves. The name of a Naga snake lady. A name for a Hulk-like zombie with 4 tentacles. Keeper of the Gates of Hell, 3-headed dog. A name for the Minotaur. A term for something comparable to the gigantic beedrill. A mix between crocodiles and lizards. A massive trigger-like creature that can extinguish light. A manticore is a human-scorpion-wolf hybrid. A goblin champion. Kong Tashik. The assassin C-ranked mage who employed light magic. The brother has been promoted to S rank. Greed, and a few more. And I'll only take it for today, as I'm writing it, while also making the player's hearing stronger owing to frequent exposure to mana, producing even the loudest sounds won't injure the player's ears. Effects. Plus improved hearing, mana cost. 10 seconds in active state. Wow. Sweet. I will be able to hear heartbeat, muscular activity, and blood circulation. That is wicked. I was impressed by the skill. But this would only happen if he increased the level. This skill has a larger MP cost compared to tastes. As a result, when each sense is formed, it costs a different amount of MP. Interesting, using too much mana might overwhelm, damage, or even destroy your sensitive organs. But I don't have to worry about that now. I can simply regenerate them. There's nothing stopping me from rebuilding my heart, lungs, and even my brain. Because I'm fascinated about memories, because technically, my soul had them. After all, my mind was crushed when I hit the planet, and soul transfer was not on my mind. So, is it incorrect for me to declare that memories are stored in my soul rather than my mind? Of course, being inquisitive does not imply that I want to try out, but I am confident that I will find out over time. I nodded and prepared for the next sense. All right. Time for the next one. Sense of scent. The human nose has around 10 million scent receptors. These smell receptors are sensitive to odor molecules passing through the air. There are hundreds of various receptors, each for identifying various scents. So I need to employ mana to boost the efficacy of these receptors. I removed a piece of chocolate candy from the inventory. Before heading outside, I had a large inventory of items. I placed the tiny candy a few meters from me. My initial goal was to be able to smell it from a short distance away. Then increase it. I concentrated and began focusing on my mana. Similar to previous ways, I began with a modest bit and gradually and carefully directed my energies to my nose. I coated the back of my nasal cavity with mana to improve his smell. After a few attempts, I succeeded. I caught a scent of chocolate. I proceeded. Slowly, I began to extend the distance. I gradually raised the amount and let it pass past my nostrils in a controlled manner. The outcomes speak for themselves. A new skill is produced by doing a certain activity. The talent, Enhanced Smell, was created after successfully regulating and infusing mana inside your nostrils and increasing your sense of smell. Enhanced Smell, Passive, Active, LV. 1. A skill earned by infusing mana into your nose's receptors. At a far higher level, this skill can smell metals and even detect, odorless, poison. At the max level, you can discern people's emotions, ideas, and vulnerabilities, as well as foresee the future based solely on fragrance. Effects. Increased Smell. Mana cost. 8 seconds in active condition. After successfully enhancing the third sense, I looked at the timer. The punishment hunt was almost over. Penalty quest. Survive goal. Survive for the specified time. Required time. 4 hours. Remaining time. 0 hours 4 minutes and 43 seconds. It was about time he returned. Shop. Current gold. 3,225,954. On top of the different money bags from the humanoid creatures, I had received a stunning 1,500,000 gold from Igris. I had lots of money now. With that in mind, I closed the window and pulled out the Night Killer dagger I purchased today. Night Killer. Rarity. B-type. Dagger. Attack power. +7.5. Night killing. +25% damage to heavily armored opponents. It's a strong, sharp dagger designed to pierce a knight's armor. Its serrated blades prevent it from slipping against armor. It was designed as a weapon for taking down heavily armored targets. It cost 2,800,000 gold. I made a nice chunk of gold just by selling a third of the loot I picked up from the labyrinth. That's why, even after getting the dagger, my funds still seem pretty intact. But I still ended up spending a lot of gold on the top-tier mana recovery spots. I would have been really upset if I hadn't picked up the 5 skills I learned today. It was definitely a scary-looking dagger, especially with that serrated blade. I swung the blade around, you know. It felt so natural in my hand, like it was just an extension of me. Do you think this could be considered a D or maybe even a C rank noble phantasm? What about any of my weapons? Honestly, the sword of stealth I ended up with feels like a knockoff of Excalibur, missing all that crazy power of the sword of promised victory that can mess with causality. Even so, the sword isn't the most impressive part. It's actually the scabbard, the ever-distant Utopia Avalon, that steals the show. Even though Sword of Stealth has all the skills of Excalibur and is ranked much higher, it still feels like a budget version of Excalibur. Hold on a second, am I really affected by the Excalibur causality? I shouldn't be, right? Honestly, I feel like I don't really fit in here, so I guess you could say I'm a bit of a foreigner. People who hold power often come from beyond the usual human limits. Entities from different dimensions that are beyond what humans can understand. Other than the last one, I'm following the 2 rules. No way keeping control over the dead should definitely fall within human limits. Absolutely, necromancy is real, but what I do goes beyond that. I actually have the power to control death itself. I come from a dimension that no one can reach, and I really think I can return to the elemental nation. I just shook my head. I really shouldn't dwell on thoughts like whether I could be affected by something when I'm planning to put myself in that position. It's even more confusing to think about a level of power that my mind is just starting to wrap itself around. After thinking it over, I decided to put Night Killer back in the inventory and then I spotted the runestone. Oh, and let's grab this skill too. Runestone. Ruler's hands smash the runestone to soak up the skill. I just went ahead and smashed the runestone without even thinking about it. You've picked up Ruler's hands. Hands of the Ruler level 1 rank. Rare, B++. Type of skill. Active cost to cast. None, no area of effect. Chill out. None, no damage at all. You can influence an object just by using your will. No need to touch it at all. Skills will develop as they reach a higher level. Imagine being able to move something from far away, all with just the power of your mind. Plus, it didn't even have a mana cost. Sure, I understood the real strength of this, and what I was looking at was just a less powerful version. It was basically telekinesis that had the power to create. So, a black hole, huh? This also makes me think about creating the spell black hole. The one from Overlord, huh? I thought I'd give this a shot, but I realized I wasn't quite skilled enough to lift something heavy. It looks like moving something heavy just takes a bit more practice. I dropped Kasaka's poisoned fang on the ground and reached out for it. The dagger slipped right into my hand. I couldn't take my eyes off the dagger. It was just so mesmerizing. I got to see real telekinesis for the first time. Okay, this is pretty helpful. I lifted my head and noticed that time was nearly up. Time left. 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 4 seconds. When the 4 seconds ticked down to 3, the system sent him a message. Ding! The penalty quest is wrapping up soon. Then another one came along. Ding! Since you've been in the penalty zone, they're going to tweak the difficulty for the next penalty quest. A change in how challenging it is. It would make hunting more challenging, ensuring that the penalty really feels like a penalty. I'm really looking forward to seeing what's in store next time. Alright, the class advancement quest is about to kick off again. I can just imagine hundreds of monsters hanging out, waiting for me in the boss room. Maybe even more than that. Next, the electronic tone chimed in. Ding! Looks like the penalty quest is coming to a close now. As I opened my eyes, I noticed a bunch of silver knights beginning to turn in my direction. They weren't the ones he was after. I took a good look around to see if anything was different. It was quite amusing to see so many new and powerful mages pop up out of nowhere. First up, the mages. There were a lot of changes in this quest compared to the original story, like how all the knights were meant to be just puppets controlled by the mages. In the original story, all Jinwoo had to do was take out the mages, and that was it. Just taking down one mage would make all those knights chasing after me drop like puppets with their strings cut. Pretty wild, right? The fallen knights were like empty suits of armor, just waiting for someone to claim them. But now things were different for me. Before, even when I teleported into the penalty zone, I had taken out all the mages, but there were knights standing around, trying to figure things out, which was not how the story went. And guess what? New mages have popped up, and they seem even more powerful than before. Absolutely. My grind really upped the challenge of the quest. But honestly, they weren't really an issue for me. I could just cast Shredding Cyclone, and honestly, that would probably be way too much for them, even here. I think Cyclone would work. As I was lost in my thoughts, the knights came charging at me with fierce determination. I casually hopped off the knight at the front of the group, using its shoulders as a little boost. I missed seeing the enemy's army up in the air. In that very moment, I called out, "Haste!" So, I was moving way faster while everything else seemed to slow down around me, and I got this awesome 40% boost. I just brushed off the hands reaching out to grab me. I could feel the mage's eyes on me, and it sent me into a bit of a panic. It got faster with the casting. The knights that were once all about swarming me suddenly switched things up and created a protective wall around the mage. Flame Lance. I had over 10 mages to deal with this time, so I went ahead and launched all the flame lances at each one of them. I went through it so fast that it was done in just 2 seconds, and I really put all my strength into each shot. Then, out of nowhere, my phone started buzzing with notifications. Well, that's a wrap. You've taken down a mage. You've taken down a mage. You took down a knight. You've taken down a mage. You took down a mage. You took down a knight. You've taken down a mage. You've taken down a mage. You've taken down a knight. You took down a mage. So, when Flame launched the Flame Lance, it took out the mages in one shot because they had such low HP. I made sure to aim for their crucial points. Any knight who tried to step in front of it found their armor pierced by the Flame Lance, which also melted their bodies. Before the knights could even touch me, I was invisible once more. They paused and glanced around. I quietly made my way to a corner of the room and settled down, crossing my legs as I sat. I can already tell I'm going to be here for days. Why not just get cozy, right? I began working on the fourth. The eyes, huh? It's one of the most sensitive organs in our body. Eyes are such a crucial part of who we are. They're among the most delicate and fragile organs in our bodies. Just make sure you're really careful when you're kneading your mana into them. If something were to happen to them, it would mean that everyone's goals and dreams would come to a halt before they even get started. I remembered everything I read in the anatomy book. The eye, a part of the body that responds to light. The cells in the retina are photoreceptor cells that can pick up visible light and send that info to the brain. The cone cells are the photoreceptor cells in our retina, and they react in unique ways to various wavelengths of light. So, that's what makes color vision possible. I remembered the pictures of the eye and the details I went over so many times. I actually looked into the different kinds of visions that Superman typically experiences. I've really got to be super careful when I do this. Just one little mistake and I might go blind for a few seconds, mess up my eye, or who knows what else could happen. I really never wanted to go through those pains. If I didn't have the ability to regenerate and the complete confidence that I'd come out of this healed if something goes wrong, I definitely wouldn't be trying this right now. Especially at this early stage. I took a deep breath and shut my eyes for a moment to focus. So, I opened them up and took a look around. I focused a tiny bit of mana energy into each of my eyes. I was looking to boost the photoreceptor in the entire eye, which would give me some new kinds of vision. I already had decent night vision, but I'm looking to improve it even further. I was able to see the change in my vision happening right before my eyes. As I concentrated my mana on the optic nerves, iris, and lens, I could feel my vision shifting dramatically throughout my eye. It got stronger, and I could see way further than I could before. My ability to manipulate mana and control its flow worked perfectly with my intentions, fixing any little mistakes before they even happened. I took my time with this one, so it ended up taking a bit longer than the others. About half an hour later, I found myself standing there, taking it all in with a sense of wonder. Every little detail I checked out was spot on. From the tiniest granules on the ground to the dust particles dancing in the air, and even the intricate feathers of birds perched dozens of meters away. A new skill comes to life through a particular action. By focusing and channeling mana into your eyes, you've enhanced your vision and created the skill, Superior Sight. Superior Sight, Passive, Active, LV. 1. This skill is gained by channeling mana into the receptors of your eyes. This skill can really zoom in on tiny particles and even notice the slightest changes in the air. Once you max out the skill, you'll unlock some new ones, like X-ray, telescope, electromagnetic, and microscope vision. Effects. Plus boost in sight. CP cost. 10 SEK while active. Stay tuned for more. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this video. I'm thrilled you watched the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to like and subscribe for even more exciting content coming your way soon.